everybody. I'm Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast. We're back again week after week. You ain't missing a single one of these podcasts. So this week we are doing, again, another rom-com, as that is our theme for the month. And we chose Always Be My Maybe.
Rachel, is this only on Netflix or is it other places? I couldn't tell if it was released to Netflix or if it was a movie somewhere else.
I'm pretty sure it's just on Netflix, and actually, just in case anybody is wondering, it's the one that's in English. There is a, I believe, Spanish version, not of this film, but called Always Be My Maybe. So we're doing the one that was released in 2019 and stars Ali Wong and Randall Park, just so everybody knows.
Well, I guess before we get into the podcast about this movie, I will give you a recap of it. Always Be My Maybe tells the story of Sasha Tran and her childhood best friend, Marcus. Sasha spent most of her childhood at Marcus's house because her parents were absent. She became like family to Marcus's family. One night, their friendship crosses the line and becomes more than just friends. After having sex, Marcus says some hurtful things to Sasha and they stop speaking. After 16 years, Marcus and his father, Mr. Kim, end up coming to Sasha's rental house to fix the air conditioning. Sasha is opening a new restaurant and will only be back in San Francisco for a few months. During this time, Sasha and Marcus rekindle their friendship and eventually end up crossing the line past friendship again. Sasha has to continue to travel for her job, but both Marcus and Sasha know that wherever they are, it feels like home when they are together.
This movie was honestly pretty cute. Like, there were parts where I was like, no! But then there were also parts that I was just like, oh my god, that's so cute. I loved it. Like, while I was watching it, I just remember being like, oh, some of these jokes, it seems like they're just trying really hard to make a joke. And they weren't always funny, but I appreciated the movie as a whole, and I thought the message was very good and it was cute. So I let it slide. I think one of the reasons why it might have felt like that is Ali Wong is actually like a famous comedian. She has a Netflix special, I believe, and it's actually when she's like super pregnant. It's pretty funny. So I think maybe the jokes were a little more like stand-up-y, and that's why they didn't always feel supernatural in the film. But besides that, I really did like it. What do you think, Hannah?
I thought the same thing about the jokes. I thought sometimes they felt really forced, and I was like, this is not funny at all. But I thought overall the movie was good and entertaining, and I thought that it was a cute message or story that it told.
Yeah, and it stars Ali Wong, like we said, and Randall Park, who, what, Hannah, they were like real life friends?
Yeah, they were real life friends, and apparently this movie is based loosely off of their friendship. Like, it's not actually how their friendship went, and they also made it clear that their friendship is strictly platonic. It is not crossing a line, but they helped write this screenplay, and they also helped produce the movie, which I think is cool.
Yeah, very, very cool, because that definitely is not always the case, you know. One thing that I did like, so they, not one thing that I did like, I liked a lot of it. Anyway, a thing that I liked. So there were some like almost sex scenes or whatever, like it was like pre and then post sex or whatever. I did like that they played it up for laughs, like the first time that they have sex, they're like in this nasty car. It's in Marcus, who's the main guy of the show. It's in his car, and it's like new-ish at the time, barely. It's so funny because they're like, the seat keeps cranking back, and then they're trying to get in the back seat, and she's like, it smells like Parmesan, and he's like, that's because there is Parmesan in the glove box. It's like, what the hell is going on? Or like that he had the condom from 7th grade, and they're like 17 to 18 right now in this scene. And then later in the movie, he still has the same car, but like the lock doesn't work. And so he has to like break into his car every single time he wants to get into the passenger seat. Oh my gosh. That honestly was really funny.
I agree. I thought that was so funny. And then Sasha is getting a ride from Marcus in that car, and she looks in the back seat, and he's like, "Are you looking back there? Because that's where we had sex." And she was like, "It's dirtier and smaller than I remember." And he's like, "I hope you're still talking about my car."
I like their friendship. It was really goofy. Even like after that long break, they still had like this connection of just getting each other. I will say that okay, at some point she is almost married supposedly, like she's engaged to this like really famous businessman or whatever at the beginning of the film. She's a celebrity chef, and so they have like this dynamic like power couple relationship, but he's like, "Yeah, we need to see other people and like I'm going to go to India for 6 months." Like, excuse me, that just means you want to break up. Anyway, then she like is starting to see other people and she meets this guy at a rap party and for this like movie or something, and she talks to Marcus about like the wicked sex they had, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like if you had been friends this whole time, okay, I would understand you maybe opening up about that, but you have been friends for less than 2 weeks because or less than 2 months because she was only there for 2 months total, and they spent a lot of time together after they like finally got together. So it's probably been a month that they've been back in each other's lives and just have barely been friends because they were like kind of arguing and like had bad blood with each other, obviously, because I mean he was a jerk to her and whatever at the end of their friendship. But I don't even think I would. I mean, I'm just like not that type of person to like talk about the wicked sex I had with my best friend or whatever. But they have not seen each other for 16 years. They've been together for a month now, and she's like ready to open up about this to him. I didn't buy that part.
I think it depends on the person and the friendship because I know that with certain friends of mine, sex is not really a topic that's discussed. And then I have one friend in particular where, like, literally nothing is off limits, and anything about any sex thing is just like a very normal conversation. And I feel like she and I started talking about those types of things within like 2 days of knowing each other. Like, it was just like that was normal. So I think that it depends on the person, and maybe since they were friends growing up, they probably talked about sex a lot during high school, and so it wasn't that like a taboo topic for them to talk about maybe.
Right. I think my biggest thing was that they like were not speaking to each other and she was mad at him, and then all of a sudden she's the one being like, "It was awesome. I needed to tell you about it." Like that just seemed a little weird, but I do understand. And then I mean, I'm ready to spoil who this person was. I don't know if you are, Hannah, because it's the funniest, like weirdest scene of the
Let's
whole movie.
let's do it. Let's talk about it.
They go to dinner. They're gonna have a double date, okay? Because Marcus has a girlfriend, Jenny, and she is and Sasha's gonna bring her new man or whatever, and they go to this really fancy place, and it has really weird food. And this is another part that I thought they were trying too hard at, but anyway, then beside the point, they're all sitting, and she brings in this guy. This guy walks in and it's freaking Keanu Reeves, like playing Keanu Reeves. Not his real self, but like an amplified, like funny version of like Keanu Reeves. It was really weird, but like really funny. The like slow-mo of it all was so funny when he like walked into the room, and he was like a real dick. But in real life, apparently Keanu Reeves is supposedly the nicest person you'll ever meet. So that's really funny, but it's nice to know that he like will play it up like I'm a pompous asshole actor. It was just so fun that he was in it and he was willing to be just like this crazy person.
Yeah, and then after they eat at this wild restaurant, they go to, I believe it's like his hotel room or something. Maybe it's his apartment.
It was
I don't
bigger
know.
than literally any house I've ever seen, but I do think he said it was a hotel room.
They go there and they're playing some game, which is like truth or drink, but they call it something else. And they're just drinking and getting to know each other with these questions that they have to answer. And it ends up that Keanu is telling Marcus that Marcus needs to punch him. And I don't know, it's really weird and things escalated quickly. But I also want to talk about this restaurant because it was the weirdest thing. And I agree with Rachel that they were trying to make it be funny or something. They were trying too hard. But they were literally like, "Oh, here's your piece of meat, and then here's some headphones that you have to listen to the animal that you're about to consume." And I'm like, "Uh, you? What? Like, that's part of the reason I'm vegan. Like, I can't eat animals. I don't know. I can't do it. I didn't like it." But the one thing I did like was at the end, they had like, it looked like edible bubbles. I can't remember what they called it, but
I think it was sugar bubbles or something like that, or crystallized sugar bubbles or something weird. But it was funny the like differences on how everyone was responding because they all got the veal or whatever it was and with the headphones and Keanu was like crying or whatever while he was eating it and Ali Wong's just like chowing down. She's like, I don't care. And Marcus was just like, I don't think I've eaten anything this whole night. They'd have like fish flakes, which apparently is like scales of fish. And he's like, oh, so it's fish dandruff. Like some of the jokes were really good in it. But yeah, they were trying really hard on like fancy places that are really expensive have small food, which was like the joke throughout the entire movie. They just kept like remaking that joke, so that wasn't super great, but they had some fun stuff in there, so I definitely will not fault them. I thought the headphone thing was pretty funny, and there's like a table behind them that you could see also had the headphones, and like they really focused on that part, and that was the biggest joke of the evening. So
did you think that there was a particular actor who was funnier or like most of what they said was funny, or was that not really a thing that happened for you?
like, was there somebody that every time they talked I was like, they're hilarious?
Yeah, or like they were more funny than anyone else? Because I have someone in mind, but I don't know if you had the same experience that I did.
I mean, I love the dad. He was probably the funniest person, Mr. Kim. He like dates a Diana Ross impersonator or whatever. Like it was just he was so goofy. He said this thing. So they're installing the air conditioning and he goes, set it and forget it. Just like they said in that old commercial. And Ali Wong or someone was like, which one? And he goes, I don't know. I don't remember. And I literally, when he said set it and forget it, I was like, oh, it's like that commercial, but I don't remember what it was for. Like, it was so relatable. I literally was like, I know what he's talking about, but I don't know what he's talking about. He was my favorite. What about you?
Well, I thought he was the cutest. Like, I thought he was so cute and so fun. But I thought personally that if there was a funniest character, it was Marcus. Like, I just thought that he didn't seem like he was trying that hard to be funny. And a lot of things that he was saying were funny. And he has this band and the songs he was singing, I was like, what are these lyrics? This is too funny. I don't know.
Bounce back like a tennis ball. They were so good. And then at the end, so speaking of his music, so he is part of this band called Hello Peril, and apparently they've been a band since high school, okay? And Sasha was actually really sweet about it. She's like, you should go big time and stuff, like actually being really supportive of like this high school band that's been together for 16 years, rather than being like, you should give up on your dreams, like most girlfriends in these movies are. I know she's not his girlfriend at the time, but like still. And even his dad was like super supportive and like had his flyers in his truck with him. Like, I'm sorry, like the fact that they were supportive of this and they were actually pretty good. Like I vibed with their songs. Like if I was out and someone was playing this music, I'd be like, wow, this is fun. Like I could like just bounce around to this, like, sway and like have a good conversation while this is going on. But at the very end, we said he punched Keanu Reeves and he was like, do you think anyone will believe me when I say it? Do you think anyone here knows that I punched Keanu Reeves? Like all that stuff. One of them says, you should write a song about it. And then the end credits is him like talking about how he punched Keanu Reeves. It was so funny. All the songs sounded the same and had the same thing, but they were all, I would listen to a whole soundtrack of that music.
I agree with that. And I just thought it was really awesome too to have a parent and a friend slash eventually girlfriend be supportive because a lot of times people are, I don't know what word I want to look for describing what I'm thinking of, but maybe vindictive or they get jealous about the fact that you're going after your dreams, and instead of trying to build you up, they tear you down. And it's like, no, just like don't try to chase your dreams. Be more practical. Do something that's gonna give you a steady income. Don't do something that is maybe your passion, but it isn't at the moment going to be bringing in a lot of money. But it's like not everything's about money, and you should do things that you love and find the people in your life who are supportive of you for chasing and doing what you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be at grad school for, screenwriting if I didn't follow my dreams or had the people that like supported me doing this. So it's so important to surround yourself with people who either believe in you or want you to succeed. Like even if they don't like know where you'll go with it or even know if you will succeed, like they want to see you succeed and have your back, and that's important for anyone, no matter what it is, like to have people who have your back.
For sure. And it doesn't even have to be only for business related. It's just like everything in life. Get you people that support you 100% completely and fully with whatever it is. If you tell them tomorrow you want to dye your skin blue, they'll be like, heck yeah, let's go get some blue dye and dye your skin blue. I don't care if that's weird to me. I love that you want to do that.
Exactly. Just as long as you're not harming other people, like, who cares? You know what I mean? I mean, this world still is, not totally accepting of everything, obviously, but it is nice to live in, 2021 because a lot of people are more supportive of things and more willing to just like accept that people are going to be who they are and that you should live your authentic self.
I agree completely. I was talking the other day with my employer about, I mean, it wasn't being yourself exactly, but it was just about how different it was between when his grandparents and my grandparents were growing up versus now, and the technology that's different, and like how bathing was different because, maybe if you were the oldest sibling, you had to bathe last after your six other siblings in the same water or things like that, and just how different it is now compared to then. And I was like, yeah, I'm very happy I'm growing up in today's day and age versus even 50 years ago.
But the olden days are always like so romanticized. I mean, we see it in Bridgerton, which I do not watch because it seems very sexy for my liking. So that's all on you. You guys go and enjoy Bridgerton. Or just like the olden days England is like this area or this era of time that everyone's like, I wish I lived back then. It's like you bathed once a month if you were rich. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't understand like what people were put into boxes. Like, you couldn't marry for love. Like, there are all these weird things. It's like, okay, yeah, what you want is to be royalty and have a handsome prince that you're betrothed to like show up. Like that's what you want. You don't want to live in old time England. You want a handsome prince to come sweep you out of the life you live in right now.
Exactly how you said, it's romanticized, and that's just it. But I think a lot of times people get stuck in this reality of thinking that things were better than they were, or things could be better than they are if they had this or were that, or I don't know. It's just, I guess it's a lot of just appreciate what you have, where you are, who you are, and work with what you got. And don't try to think that a different way of life is so much better than what you have.
That resonates with the message that this movie was like representing because it was like be with the person that you want to be with. Don't just be with the person that makes your status look good. Be who you want to be, do the kind of things that you want to do. Like, Sasha was making all of these big fancy restaurants that were like fine dining, fine Asian dining, but like geared towards the rich white person. There's a line like, print this on rice paper, white people eat that up. It's like she was trying to cater towards somebody else, which, yes, you always want to cater towards an audience or like read the room, like make it for the people that you want to make it for. But I don't think that's who she wanted to make it for. We saw that at the end when she made Judy's Way, the new restaurant that was in New York, I believe was where that one was at. And it was straight up authentic Korean food. It was what Marcus's mom made all of her recipes that she learned while Sasha was like basically living with them. And it was finally, she did change, at the beginning of the movie and at the end, you should look at your main characters and they should have a change. And that one did, and it was a big one. And I really think that that was the most beautiful scene in the movie.
I agree, because at the beginning, Sasha is, I would say, trying to live up to whatever that current fiance of hers was, his dreams, maybe more so, and like do what he thinks is right for her. And she's trying to cater to, like we said, this white audience. And then Marcus is coming to her restaurants and was like, this isn't authentic Asian food. Like, what my mom made was authentic. And I think that sparks something in Sasha's head. And she's like, oh, yeah, like it really is. And we didn't say this, but Marcus's mom died when they were, I don't know how old they were, but like in their teens. And so her new restaurant is named after Marcus's mom. It's like all of her recipes, and Marcus and Sasha have this special bonding moment over this restaurant. And it's not all glorified, fancy, catered to the white person. It's authentic. And this restaurant is kind of more bones, I guess I would say. It's not all decorated. It's just bare, and it is what it is. And you come for the food. It's not to see this big, elaborate building full of things to make you try to think you're somewhere that you're not.
You go there for an experience, but it's not like, oh, I want to go there because I hear they have actual Korean whatever there. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of restaurants will do that where, like, it serves a certain type of food, and you can tell when it's actually run by, people of that country of origin that they are making the food from, because it's just their focus is on the food and not on, decorating the place. Like, there's a place where we're from in North Dakota called Paradiso, and you can tell that it's like an American Tex-Mex restaurant because there's so much like Mexican music plays, and like there's all of this artwork, and it just over the top. Whereas I live next door to a Chinese place in Georgia here, and it literally, you can't even sit in the restaurant. Like, it's a to-go place or a delivery place. You just walk in, they have a menu board with some pictures on it, and you just tell them what you want. Then you go wait in the parking lot, they yell your name or your order, and you go and pick it up, and then you go home. Like, it's just, they don't care about the decorations. Like, it's literally just like a little box with great food and a great kitchen. That's what they focused on.
They're not trying to be something they're not. They just are what they are, and it is what it is. I guess that kind of touches with the message that I was saying, is like, don't try to be or want something you don't have. It's just be who you are. And that's the same with that restaurant. They are being who they are, and they don't have to try to be anything else. But I think right here would actually be a good spot to answer last week's podcast question. So last week's question was from Paige, and it is, when are you going to do a podcast about Avatar? So, Rachel, when are we going to do a podcast about Avatar?
Oh gosh. Okay, I've never seen this movie, which is probably like a sin. I don't know.
What?
I I think I've like seen parts of it. My parents probably rented it from Blockbuster, and I think I probably like was in and out of the room while it was on, but it definitely didn't interest me at the time. I mean, I was a kid. It came out like in 2009 or something random like that. And so I just never watched it fully.
I think it's one that we definitely need to watch. We'll have to look and see when we could, what theme that would fit in, I suppose, for season 2, because we have all of our plan for season 1.
Yeah, and also we just have to see if it's on a streaming site. Like, I actually have no idea. I'm sure it's probably on Amazon. They have everything.
Yeah, I think it looks like it should be on Prime Video.
So it just basically, like we said, depends on if it matches with one of our themes for our months. Because I don't know if you guys like it, but I'm having fun picking movies based off of a certain theme. It kind of is forcing me to go outside my box of normal films I watch, which Avatar is definitely one of those films. So Hannah, you've already seen it though, haven't you? We talked about this
Yeah,
a couple podcasts ago.
yes, we did answer the question. If you remember our question about 3D, I answered with an answer. Of course, I answered with an answer. I guess you can answer with a question sometimes, but I talked about Avatar with being 3D. And that was the last time I saw it. So I saw it in 2009 when it came out in the movie theater, but I would definitely watch it again. I think that it's an enjoyable movie from what I remember. So if I can find a spot to fit it in, maybe we do a theme that is like movies with tons of makeup.
Yeah, we'll find a theme for it. Don't worry. I'll make sure, even though it's something I'm not totally thrilled about, that I'm not just going to keep picking movies and avoid it till the end of time. So, but yeah, that's when we'll do it. When we find time for it.
So thank you, Paige, for that question.
I think we can pretty much guarantee season 2 we'll try and fit it in. So, season 2 starting in June. Awesome. So, something interesting, I actually recognized Randall Park right away when I watched this movie, and not for what you probably are going to think of. So, like, he starred in Fresh Off the Boat. He's just been in a lot of like random shows and like movies, but I don't know who else knows this, but there was this like 7 episode YouTube mini show thing that he and some of his friends did when I think they were either still in college or just newly graduated, called Ikea Heights. This web series took place inside of Ikea without their permission and while the store was open. And so they just secretly, like, it was a soap opera basically, where, like, you know, this guy's wife is cheating on him and there's these bad guys who are trying to like kill these other people. And the ending of the first episode is so freaking funny, where Randall Park talks to himself, like himself dressed as his twin brother or something, and he's like, "You're back from the war," and he goes, "I need to tell you about our other brother." "What is it?" "He's still alive." Like, what? Like, it was just stupid stuff like that. It's so funny. And there's like people walking in the background who are actually shopping at the store, like staring at the camera sometimes, or like there's a really intense moment between a couple, and in between them you can see a guy just like standing there looking at pillows. Like, so stupid, so funny. They really just amp up the fact that it's filmed in IKEA too, because like the price tags and like names for all of the furniture is still in shot. Like, they do not try to hide it one bit. They make jokes about it, where like this guy's looking out the window and he goes, "Oh, I could stare at these sunsets forever in IKEA Heights." And then it goes to the outside of and looking in, and it's like a big advertisement on the side of the wall. Like, so freaking creative. They get kicked out sometimes in the actual show while they're filming it. People are like, "You can't film here," and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they have to go to a different IKEA at some point because they like are recognized when they go into the store. One of my favorite things from the first episode is like one of the landlines, quote unquote, rings, and Randall Park picks it up and it's attached to like the dock that you put the landline in, and he's just holding it like, they just really, really play up the stupidity of this. And that's what I recognized him from. And I had to show my boyfriend the first episode when we finished this movie, because I was like, "You need to see what I had to watch."
You mentioned that they maybe had to move IKEAs because they got kicked out of a previous one, which made me wonder, have you ever been kicked out of a store before?
I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have. Have you?
Yes,
Oh,
I
God.
would you believe it? I got kicked out of Walmart. My friend Rachel, not this Rachel, a different Rachel that's spelled Rachael, and I in high school, we were literally wild. Like we would do anything and everything because we didn't care about anyone. I swear it was just us against the world. And she and I went into Walmart and I put her in a shopping cart, and on top of her, I put a bunch of stuffed animals. Do you remember when Angry Birds was like a huge app and everyone would play that game?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there was a bunch of these stuffed Angry Birds, and I just put them all over her so you couldn't see her. And I would drive the cart by people, and she would pop out at people and just scream at them. And we, after about 20 minutes of doing this, got kicked out of Walmart. And then there was a different time we got kicked out of Kmart because we would always go in there and take the electric scooter thing and ride around the store with it.
So you got kicked out of two major department stores. One of them's closed, probably because of you, Hannah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But yes, that is true. Going off of your fun fact, I have a fun fact. I guess I don't know if it's a fun fact, but it's just a fact about the film is that the filming locations were San Francisco, which makes sense because part of it is set in San Francisco, but the part that was set in New York was actually filmed in Vancouver.
That's like super common is that Vancouver and Toronto are used for New York substitutes. And I really do think it's just because New York is so freaking expensive to film in. Plus, when you're filming, you have to like block off streets a lot of the times, because all of the extras are usually like people who are paid to be there, not like, oh, let's just have the natural setting of people, walking down the street because that's has too many factors. They could look at the camera, they could say hi to the actors, they could do whatever, so it's usually people that they are paid or volunteered to be there on set and they block all these roads. That would literally cause a standstill in New York. And they do that all the time, but like it probably costs way too much money for like this Netflix film.
Plus, New York is really loud. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
is the noisiest city I've ever been in. So I can't imagine that that would make it any easier. I get that you can edit out sounds or whatever, but I feel like if you're trying to have an intimate moment or something.
One of Hannah's and my favorite shows, The Bold Type, is actually filmed in Toronto, even though it takes place in New York City. So it's very, very, very common for Canada to be a substitute for New York City.
And honestly, some parts look the same. I mean, I've never been to the areas where they're filming, but I guess sometimes I can notice. I'm like, that's not New York City. New York City has much taller buildings.
I never noticed, and I've been to New York City. I haven't been to Toronto or Vancouver, but like, anyway, oh my gosh, this is so random, but it just came into my mind. So, my family went on vacation to Maine a couple of years ago, and we drove up to New Brunswick, Canada, just for fun. We all brought our passports, so we're like, why not go to Canada? We're here. When are we going to be over here again? YOLO. So we go up there and we had called my grandma beforehand and we're like, yeah, we're over in Maine. We're probably going to go to Canada tomorrow or whatever, right? And she was like, well, be careful. I hear there's this huge storm in Vancouver. And my dad just laughed and my grandma was always like, she is not super worldly knowledge or whatever. She only watched the local news, like didn't have the internet, nothing. Like literally no internet at her house for the whole time that she lived. And when we like hung up, we're like, does grandma realize that Vancouver is literally as far away from New Brunswick as you can get? Like, it's so funny to me, but she was so innocent. She just cared so much. Like, whenever you like could not tell her when you were traveling because she would like find out somehow. Like, if I said I was going to, like, I don't even know, Egypt, she would somehow find out about something that was like happening in Egypt and be like, be careful, they're having a huge flood or something. You know what I mean? Like, she's just adorable that way. And so she was just like, be careful for Vancouver. And we're like, got it, grandma, no worries, even though it's the absolute opposite side of the country.
That's adorable. But that'd be me with geography, because when you were telling that story, I was like, okay, yeah, so they're probably driving into this storm. I had no clue about they were completely on opposite sides of each other.
Yeah, Vancouver's like right above Washington and New Brunswick's right above Maine. And so if you know US geography, there's the reference for you.
Well, I know where Washington and Maine are because I've been to both places, and I can say they are many miles apart.
Yeah, literally. Maine is such a weird vacation spot. I feel like my family went there because one, we've never been there, and two, my sister and my mom likes Stephen King as well, but my sister is a huge Stephen King fan, and so we made sure to, go on a Stephen King tour and see his house and all that cool stuff while we were there. So it was worth it. It was so beautiful and so random.
Yeah, I thought Maine was really pretty. I went there with my brother, and on the same trip, we also went to Boston, and they were vastly different, but I thought that they were both really cool. Do we have other things we want to say about this podcast since we're a little off topic at the moment?
Yeah, there was that scene.
The scene,
The
people.
scene in the movie. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. It's pretty early on in the movie actually, right? It's like before the halfway point where Sasha gets a call from her fiance, the big douchebag in India now, and he's like calling and he's like, I know we said we wouldn't call during this time, which, excuse me, my fiance goes to India for 6 months and I'm not supposed to talk to him, even though we're like seeing other people. Absolutely not. No way. So he's like, this time apart really made me think, and you think he's gonna be like, either I love you or, we're not gonna work out. But he goes, that we're not branding this well enough. We need your brand to be bigger or whatever. He's talking some marketing bullcrap. And she starts just going off on him and screaming. She's at her like cousin's 8-year-old birthday party or something, but she's like gone inside to take the call. And she's like, I don't even know what she said, but she's screaming at him. And you find out the window's wide open and everybody heard.
It was so uncomfortably awkward, but it was so funny. I think that for me was the funniest moment in the whole movie. And I need to know if you've ever overheard someone like doing that or if you've ever been overheard in an uncomfortable situation.
I just feel like either I'm brain dead right now or nothing interesting has like ever happened to me ever because I have no idea. Oh, this guy in my class the other day though, we were reading a script. It's on Zoom. We're on Zoom, so like you can mute yourself, but he didn't realize that he wasn't muted and he just yells like so loudly, as loud as he possibly can, I swear. In the middle of the script, he goes, "No, this is bullshit. Bullshit," like just screaming. But he was like yelling at his like Adobe Premiere or Adobe Photoshop or something he was working on, like was just crashing and being terrible and he probably didn't save or something. And we all just laughed and he's like, also he's like, oh crap, I wasn't muted. That wasn't about the script. I'm sorry. Adobe's just being really terrible right now. Like, just apologizing. My professor was like, that was not even the worst thing that's ever been screamed in my class. While people thought they were muted, don't you worry. Like, he was so like chill about it, even though he basically admitted that he was working on other work in class. But we'll just ignore that. But that was probably one of the funniest things that I've personally like heard happen.
I wish I could have experienced that with you.
What about you? Have you overheard something or been overheard yourself?
I definitely was overheard once. I don't at all remember the context anymore, so obviously it was super impactful on my life, but I just remember my childhood room, my closet, the wall in my closet was connected to the wall of the head of my dad's bed, and my friend and I were talking about something one night, and then it was something we didn't want anyone to know about. And then, like 20 minutes later, he came and talked to us about that. And I was like, oh my God, what has he heard besides that? But then, for me, overhearing people, being a nanny, I've been in situations where I'm just like in the house and the family forgets I'm there, and not with my current employers, but past ones. They would get in like really, really, really heated arguments. And then I'd be overhearing it, and then they would know, like they would realize I was there, but then they would try to bring me into the argument and they'd be like, Hannah, what's your opinion on this? And I was like, oh my God, leave me out of this. I'm not part of this.
No, that is so awkward.
Yeah, the most awkward because I'm like, literally, how could you even say who's right? Like, I just can't. So I would just like laugh and walk away.
Oh my God. I would literally have to spontaneously combust like on the spot. I'd be like, now's the time. Come on, people, right now, like take me out. That would, I would literally actually have to die.
I don't get how the parents wouldn't always notice like how awkward that is. Like, if they were in a situation where, let's say, their boss was arguing with one of their coworkers and then they brought them into that, would they think that that's appropriate? I don't know. It
Mm.
just was so uncomfy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there have been times where I know of like bosses that would like get off basically on like yelling at people and they would bring in like other coworkers to like let's say I'm gonna yell at you, I would bring in like another coworker so that they would be able to witness like how in trouble you were. Like that's so awful. Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. No,
That's
that's a real
so
thing.
toxic.
on a little more fun note, let's give you the question that we will be answering in next week's podcast. Rachel, will you read it to us?
I would love to. This question comes from Dean, one of our listeners. Obviously, I mean, like, how else would we get this question? His question is, what podcast do you listen to, and which one or which ones are your favorite?
All right, so if you want to hear our answer to that question, you will have to listen to next week's episode.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast.
Bye.
Bye.